We at the Adventure Bike Shop have used our experience from our own halfway around the world and back travels. To put together a range of products that we think are top quality, will last you a trip. Brands we know and trust, products we've used ourselves. Dumb products, and what am I going to say? Welcome to the Adventure Bike Shop. This is now getting good.
The Adventure Bike Shop, proud sponsors of
Adventure Bike TV.
Hello and welcome to Adventure Bike TV. It's episode 10 and who would have ever thought we'd make it to double figures? As always, we're going to be starting with a bike review, but for the first time on Adventure Bike TV, we're going to be looking at an older bike.
Now, I have a very, very clear memory of back in the day, and I'm talking about probably 25 years ago, of my dad coming back from a test ride on a motorbike. Now, it was on a BMW, and he came back and he said, it's a really odd bike, it's got long legs and this weirdly configured engine, and I'm just not quite sure what I think about it, but I know I like it. There are a few vehicles in history against which all that come after are truly measured, and which change the way we look at their whole market. The Ford Mustang created a whole new segment of car enthusiasts in the 1960s. In the bike world, the Honda Fireblade redefined the sports market in the early 1990s. And then we have the BMW GS 1150. I've got a confession to make. I had a GS 1150, albeit an adventure, 8 or 9 years ago. I absolutely loved it. It was so agricultural and so purposeful. It was a real dream come true having it. And riding this bike is like putting on an old pair of slippers. But that's both good and bad. Both in terms of being very, very comfortable and feeling good, and in terms of the little niggly things that you hate about it. The things that are great. It feels stable and it feels like you can ride thousands of miles a day on it. Once you get going, it handles beautifully, albeit at slow speeds it's a bit ponderous. But the niggles are still there. There's that horrendous engine weave that the bike moves from side to side when you rev it really hard because of the configuration of the engine. The indicators, those really weird switches either side of the handlebars. I never really got my head around it in the 2 years I had my previous bike. And that gearbox. It's thorough German engineering, but my God is it clunky. Here is the bike against which all other large adventure bikes have been measured since. And as I look back into the murky mists of time, my leaky memory tells me it must have been around for at least a decade. In fact, it was only produced for 5 years between 1999 and 2004 before it was replaced by the lighter and more powerful 1200 GS. Maybe my memory of how long it was around for starts to explain how important this bike was. It was only produced for 5 years, yet it seems so much longer. That's my heart overruling my head, and that is the story of the GS 1150. It won riders' hearts, and its descendants continue to do so. Okay, the naysayers shout that the GS would never have achieved its cult status without the influence of certain TV appearances. I'm not so sure. The biking world was ready for the explosion of adventure riding, and the GS would have been a huge part of that anyway. Kevin and Julia Sanders used one in 2002 to set their world circumnavigation record, and then again in 2003, although this time they used the 1150 Adventure to set their Pan American record. Simon Newbound and his wife used GS's to set the 2003 63,000 mile endurance biking record for Guinness. It was also winning plaudits and awards all the way through the early noughties, well before its winking phase appeared on our TV screens.
So, in exactly the same way that 747 behind me is the aircraft against which all other passenger aircraft are measured, this GS is the bike against which all big, modern adventure trailer bikes are measured. We've got to remember though, of course, that this is now a 12-year-old bike. It's big, it's heavy, it's got low horsepower, it's got loads of niggles with it. So, why do I love it so much? And the bigger question is, would I have one of these in my garage? Of course I bloody would.
It did feel good to get back on the GS.
We will of course be looking at other bikes that shaped modern adventure motorcycling in future episodes, so keep an eye out. Now it's time for an update on the budget bike.
Now I wanted to give it a really thorough workout, so it only seemed right to bring it to the test track to give it to Bob. However, Nathan was allowed to take his budget bike around the track himself, and being a bit competitive, I wanted to see if I can beat him. Should be pretty easy, I mean, he had a DNF. The producer thought I should wear this little monstrosity because he thinks my reaction from riding this bike will be funny. God knows why he'd think that.
So close.
What?
So how are you feeling about your decision to take it around the track?
Get a set of knobbly tyres, it'd be perfect. Just goes to prove any bike can do it. Look how close I am. Just road tyres. That's the problem, it's road tyres.
So close.
Keep on going. Well, at least I finished, and it beats Nathan and the C90.
He's going to kill you for calling it a C90.
Oh, Nathan, sorry. The Postie bike is not a C90, is it? It's a bigger one. It's a bigger C90.
So it's been tested, and now it's time for me to make some improvements. Well, I hope they're improvements. Anyway, we'll see you after the break.
We have the largest selection of hard luggage under one roof in this country. Bollocks.
Some people learn to ride a motorbike growing up on a farm. I was trained by the military. Some people spend their mornings stuck in traffic. My daily commute is a bit more extreme. In my time, I've been bitten by snakes, pinned by rapids, survived parachute failure and Everest crevasses. My adventures are anything but what you'd call ordinary. And this new Triumph, well, I always knew riding a Tiger would be something spectacular.
We are the sole UK stockist of the Redvers 10, the original Park Your Bike in the Garage 10. We also have a range of tents and other camping equipment from a number of trusted brands. That was
Welcome back. Before we go on to a really great under the visor, it's time to do a lap. Now, a lot of people have asked to see the free ride go around the track, but the producer wasn't sure about it. At the end of the day, it's an enduro bike, and whilst it could be adapted to make a really nice little adventure bike, in its raw form, it would destroy the competition. So, the producer thought the only fair way to do this would be to hand the free ride over to Bob's amateur and all-round rubbish cousin, Knob.
Knob! Knob! You're facing the wrong way!
Well, that was, to be honest, just really slow. And now it's time for Under the Visor. And this month we have an actor, best known for his part as Cat in Red Dwarf and Dwayne in Death in Paradise. And he's also done a few motorbike trips with me. This month, it's Danny John Jules.
James Cargo Motorcycle Shipping sponsors Under the Visor.
Hello, my name's Danny John Jules, actor, singer, dancer, biker, and many other things that I won't go into. I got into motorcycling, well, legally, about 16, 17 years ago, when I was doing a show in Derby called Soul Train at the Playhouse Theatre. And the photographer of the show used to sort of turn up on this Thundercat every day looking really cool, and I thought, man, that's good. You know, I went down to City Centre and just booked my direct access and took my test. It was that simple. I ride the bike and sidecar in Death in Paradise. In the script originally, it said Dwayne turns up on a Harley Davidson with a sidecar, and you know, the idea of, you know, having this Harley Davidson and sidecar in the middle of Saint Marie, which looked like it cost more than a police station, just wasn't going to work. So, you know, that's when I suggested that, you know, it should be some old colonial war-like vehicle that would have been more realistically left on the island from, you know, its colonial days. And hence, that's how the old bike and sidecar came about. But originally they wanted it to be a Harley, and I think everyone would agree that would have been wrong. Well, on the last series of Death in Paradise, obviously, you know, 5 months out there, riding the bike in a TV show, you don't really get to do a long ride. You're just doing these little, it could be 20-yard ride. It looks like you've been riding for 2 hours, and you turn around the corner, pull up, get off. You know, but I do. Funny enough, I had a BMW Dakar that I had the use of. It's one guy that ran a hotel, and he was a biker, and you know what bikers are like. And he said, anytime you want to go out for a blast, just let me know. So I did, and then just you know, go blasting around the island. So I don't really get a lot of time. It's quite hairy riding a motorcycle over there, because these juggernauts are winding roads, flying up and down the road. So yeah, I think you'd have to pick your days, Sunday, preferably. Well, I mean, to me, it's like I can go around, you know, going to little holidays, or you know, I don't really have holidays as such. You know, I'm pretty much, for the last 5 years, I've been working, holidaying, as they say. And when you're travelling so much and been away so much, a holiday actually seems weird. It's just another plane that, you know. So the bikes actually make a big change when you go out. You know, it is like your holiday. You know, that is basically has been my holidays for the last 5 years. You know, getting out and about, seeing countries, and actually going out and seeing the places you visit. You're going by road, you know, rather than sort of getting off a plane, getting into a taxi, getting to the hotel, and then sort of going to the usual haunts where everyone says you should go. But, you know, if you go to Morocco, no one's going to say, why don't you go to that isolated village up there and just walk in, which is what I get to do on those trips. And I get to see a lot more of the countries. I get to meet lots more of the real people, instead of sort of concierges and bellboys and, you know, the usual stuff you see on holidays, and pool attendants and the aerobics class in the pool and all of that stuff, you know. Well, it was the first bike ride was, you know, the Isle of Man, and my thing was that the question was what would the cat's bite look like, and out of that came the whole pink thing, and the original cat suit in Red Dwarf was pink, and he'd have a pink bike, and everything else would be pink and flashy and outrageous, and that's how the whole pink thing started. But then it caught on because people actually didn't like it. They just, it was not meant, man ain't supposed to have a pink bike. So of course, it's like a red rag to a bull, So but it's caught the imagination anyway. So, and also it's a good charity colour, and we, all the rides have been attached to a charity. So it works on many levels. Every catty character that I could think of, I went through a whole list of people that would have been cats, and from Cab Calloway, James Brown, Jimi Hendrix, Screaming Jay Hawkins, Little Richard. God, there was so many of them, and I always went back to the same thing. They always had big suits on, and it was always very colourful. Purple King, the Little Richard, Richard Pryor was pretty much the rhythm of the cat's characters. Richard Pryor, facial expressions and his rhythm of talking. So the is James Brown. I mean, but people like it, even though they've seen it a million times from James Brown. But the ow, that's a cat. That's what cats do. James Brown was a cat. Well, the whole thing about Bucky, yet again, my short film started. My son used to have a little plastic rally tricycle, and he loved watching MotoGP, and he'd lean with the guys around the corner with obviously the camera on the back of the bike, so he would actually sit and watch it and do the leaning with them and that, and then he would bomb around this kitchen table just hours on hours, and he wooden floor with the, and he would just be backing backing it in round the corners, and he'd just go around and doing it, and to me what it was there was a great innocence about it, and I always hark back to the tricycle that I remember when I was a kid, and it was one of the ones that had what I called the dustbin, the bread bin at the back, with the lid that opened up, and you could store your stuff in there. It was like the boot, and that was a lot of the influence to how, that innocence, and then that innocence being broken, or taken away, and that's when I started working on the story. What would a kid carry in the back? What do you put in there? And then I won't give it away, but then something very naughty goes in the back, and then it unravels. A kid basically through no fault of his own, having his innocence taken away. A Caribbean one. Yeah. Go home, back home. That one. Dominica. Where else would you want? You wouldn't. It's a mountain in the sun instead of snow. I've done mountains in snow, and no one's done a Caribbean trip. I haven't seen anyone do a Caribbean one yet. So I thought that was the next one, because I'm out there anyway. Yeah. So, I mean, it seems silly not to. Got a 5 months working period, and then a week off in the middle, a ferry to my mum and dad's home island, and ride around there.
Very nice.
James Cargo Motorcycle Shipping sponsors Under the Visor.
Okay, well, I'm looking forward to seeing Danny's next adventure. Now it's time for the next instalment of Slimbo's Superlative Suggestions.
It's time for Slimbo's Superfluous Suggestions. Do you remember the toilet test we did with the pannier? Yeah? Do you remember that bin bag? Well, not that particular one, mind you, because it's a bit whiffy. Here, I've got one here that I haven't used yet. But what we're going to do for you, and I'll just put that down, is we're going to tell you all about how, when you're travelling in a hot climate, you don't want to carry all those waterproof liners or the external waterproofs or all that gear. A simple way of keeping yourself as dry as possible when it does rain, and it will, even in a hot country. First of all, you need a knife. If you haven't got a knife, a little pair of scissors will do. You're going to cut a hole in the top for the head, and then in the sides of the bag, quick slip there, quick slip there, hey ho, you're done. Now for the fun bit. Remember, you're taking your jacket off, of course. Slide your arms into there, head in the top, and bang, look at that. Instant waterproof liner that'll keep the bulk of your body nice and dry. Put your jacket over the top of it, so when it's raining heavily, cats and dogs, it doesn't matter, because this is as cheap as chips. It squishes up into a little ball. You can throw it away if it gets ripped up when you're getting it off again. It doesn't matter. But the nice thing is, it's cost you nothing to do, and also you haven't had to carry extra weight.
What a great tip. That's on my list to try on my next adventure. And now it's time for our film. This month's film has been sent in by the legend that is Austin Vince. It's a little bit of motorcycle adventuring put to poetry.
Come on, let's go. Do a mini mondo. Escape the city, jump on a ferry across the Bay of Biscay to Spain, a land of drama and beauty, where you could think, if you blink, that you're in the Yorkshire Dales or hilly Brecons, where there's delightful roads, but maybe a dramatic bivouac beckons. On rugged cliffs, awash with spray, you don't get to see this every day. You can't camp there, I hear you say, but safely camp you can, I reckon. So whilst England, adorned with fences and gates, says no right of way, well, Spain awaits. A land of welcome and ease of passage where bikes can roam. It's not like home. Giant country for me and my friends, giant skies that truly never end. Endless of miles come more and more. Our dirt bikes take us to explore. The space is natural, huge and free, but modern when the needs arise, as little humans harness what Mother Nature supplies. And if the gushing plume can froth and spray, you'll find another nook where people pray. The generations of hardy Basques and Castilians and Catalan, they'd work these rolling plains of toil, the horny-handed sons of the soil, and we roll by and gain much pleasure from these hidden nugget gems of treasure, sturdy farms on mountainside, which now endless campsites do provide. Four chums, not set on this destination, but thrown here by the trails, but with a well-thought-through campfire expectation that barbecue never fails. It's simple things like onion rings that lift our souls up higher, and how soothing to a man's sanity when he flips beef burgers on a fire. A nylon sheet and tarp complete mean you wake up with the dawn, and although asleep the cans are neat for getting coffee water warm. It's a cocktail hybrid, so very pure that makes these days so clean. It's friends and food and fontanas. It's sunshine and cheerful improvisation. The nicks and knacks and homemade racks. Possibly establishing new conventions. A fusion of essential tools and Tupperware inventions. Transforming us from backstreet nobodies to the Don Quixotes of the High Sierra. Trail bikes, simple, small and cheap, yet they make us knights of the road table, with tyres that lock us upright and true, and through trails that gleam, but once we've passed and we've come through, we leave the route pristine. Being quiet amongst great nature, making friends with those we find, to share the hills, to share the fields with others, that sounds just fine. To think about the gorgeous land, to recognise the awe. All you need's a dirt bike that cost $1,000, and that's well worth riding for. Come to Spain and then come again. Get some mini mondo time, a few camping things, and you'll feel like kings. It really is sublime.
Austin, thanks very much for that, and we hope to be having more from you soon. Now it's time for the final break, and when we come back, it's time for a report from the MCN Bike Show and a post-Dakar review with Pavey & Son.
Adventure Bike Shop, we also do a wide range of soft luggage, if that's more your thing.
We really care about the adventure motorcycle market and try to make it as many shows as possible to see our customers. So if you can't come to the shop, come see us at a show.
Welcome back. Now it's time for our report from the XL MCN Bike Show. We decided to do it a little bit differently this time and take you behind the scenes and throw in a little bit of tomfoolery.
We are at the London MCN XL Bike Show today, and I shall be exploring, trying to find out some stuff behind the scenes.
Whilst I'm here just vlogging books and talking to people about bikes and things. No, it's a really good show actually, nice crowd here, everybody's interested in bike, obviously because we're at a bike show. It's just a good place to be. Yeah, it's really good.
I'm here with the Adventure Bike Shop, wearing my wig mostly, and we've got some exciting news today. I'm not sure how much I can tell you about it. Great show, good social, maybe a bit too much good social.
And Nathan had some good news.
Yeah, I've took the plunge and bought a GS 1200, so I suppose known for riding a 105cc across the world, but I quite like the GS, and I took the plunge and I'm going to hopefully use it for some serious travels and adventure. Try and get it dirty, use it on the show, maybe do some tyre tests and things like that, so actually get it out there and get it muddy. So yeah, looking forward to that.
Has anybody called you a sellout yet?
Yeah, loads of people call me a sellout, Austin Vince, everyone really, but I don't care, it's a good bike, and you know what, I'm bored of riding a slow bike, I kind of want something a bit more exciting, so I took the plunge and yeah, we'll see, hopefully it don't break down. I hear they're really reliable, aren't they, BMWs these days? So.
Welcome to the dark side.
Yeah, thanks.
Excellent.
Cheers.
We're off around the show.
Yeah.
We thought it might be interesting to show you a little bit about the show that you don't normally see, a bit behind the scenes. And we're just outside the organiser's office and the press office, so I'm just going to take you and show you inside. It's not actually as exciting as you might think it is, but we'll take a look anyway. So just through here is where all the press guys and the photographers are all hanging around.
They still put the Hastings on, or does that stop?
No, that's made.
Yeah, it's been made. I thought that was this time.
So like I said, it's actually a bit boring and it's not very posh at all. As I've been wandering through the media offices, like the back office of the show, I've just spotted Gareth Ashman, who's kind of he's the top guy here, so we're going to go in and have a word with him. Gareth, hiya. Right.
Hi Graham, how are you? All right?
Yeah.
Good to see you. Yeah, very good. Well, we work on this show all year. It's a whole year thing, so as soon as the doors close tonight, we'll be thinking about next year's sort of show and features already. And we've tried a few different things recently. You have to have all the new bikes, and you have to have a few bargains on kit for people to buy, because without that you haven't got a bike show. But then on top of that, we try and put in a few different things in terms of zones and features. So we've got the central sort of slide dirt track show, where we've got a few of the riders doing head-to-head sort of drift racing, which has been really fantastic this year. We've got the Valentino Rossi bikes right in the centre, where we've got 9 of Valentino's World Championship winning bikes, which we've collected from around the world. And we've done that this year because MCN is 60 years old. But also Valentino's been racing 20 years. So we've done that as a sort of one-off feature, and those bikes have never been together in the same room anywhere else in the world. So that was a fantastic thing we wanted to do this year because we're 60 years old. And then we have the zones. So we have Adventure, which is one of our big zones where people can talk about touring and look at the new adventure bikes, BMW slow skills, that sort of stuff. Classics, we have a big custom zone with the competition, and then sports and performance. And a big thing that we do is we have a lot of sort of talks from different speakers on the stages throughout the day, so people can hear sort of interviews and things like that, just to keep them in the show a bit longer, give them some features to look at.
Okay. So the Adventure Zone has only been going, what, 3 years now?
Yeah, third year we've had it. I mean, Adventure is big now. race enduro myself, and we kind of love that. And bikers have really sort of changed over the last couple of years. Super sports used to be the big kind of thing, but now people are riding a lot of different sorts of bikes. And this kind of thing about freedom, that's the number one thing that comes up in the research. Why people ride bikes, it's all about freedom and adventure. And so partnering with sort of BMW and Touratech, some of those guys, having some of the sort of speakers, your Nick Sanders, your Nathan Milwards, it's a fantastic thing because that's what people dream about, packing up and riding all around the world. So we give them some inspiration here.
Right, good to see you.
Great to see you.
Yeah.
See you again.
Cheers. Okay. And through here, so I'm just going to show you, this is where all the press come and get their tickets, and where if you're lucky you occasionally see somebody famous because they're sitting waiting to go into the hall.
I didn't know if she said.
No, I've just heard.
So we're going to go into the show.
I've got some really exciting news today at the show. Looks like I'm going to be taking part in an event at the end of May, which is only a few months away. It's a big challenge. Not only have I got to pass my test in that time, I've got to learn to ride off-road as well. And I've met someone here at the show. It looks like they're going to help me through all this, so we're looking forward to that one. But I can't tell names and I can't tell you any more than that, but it's exciting stuff. So, with that in mind, I'm going to need a bike, and I'm going to need one pretty soon. Back at the last show at the NEC, I tried out a few bikes, and I finally made my decision, and it's this one here. I want the G650. It's perfect height for me, I feel comfortable on it, it's not too tall for me, it's not too heavy. I think it's just what I'm after, and it just feels right, and I love it. So, I'm after a G650.
So I've not had a chance to do out with the show just because I'm in here selling books. So it's been busy, I've talked a lot, and that's it. But it's been a good show. Been a lot of interesting people, a lot of young people. It's good to see at the show this year. It seems to be a lot of young people and also females. So biking is maybe not losing its older edge, but there's a danger that motorcycling will be becoming quite outdated and a more mature market. So to see younger people is really good. So I think it's a good sign for the future of the industry, and yeah, people are enthused. All the traders are doing well. Seem to be talking that they sold well, which is good. And yeah, people are coming up to me telling me about their trips. We've got some people riding to Morocco, some people riding through Europe for the first time, people wanting to ride around the world. So yeah, there's a lot of excitement, a lot of buzz out there for biking. So yeah, it's been a great show.
I'm here at the Alt-Rider stand. I'm joined by Jeremy Le Breton, the owner of Alt-Rider, and he's going to tell us a bit about the company.
Thank you, Tammy. We've recently joined the UK market, and similar to when we launched in the US, there was, of course, some predominant brands that existed. And when we looked at the marketplace, we really felt that there were several things that we could do different than what was on the market and had been around for quite some time. Some of the three big differences that I would think of when talking about what was different than what was already on the market is, big one is functionality. So in America we have a lot of wide open spaces, therefore we get to do a lot of off-road riding, and these bikes get pushed to their limit, and they're quite heavy bikes. So a lot of our protection parts are very function oriented, meaning in the method that they're mounted to the frame of the motorcycle and the materials that are used, and even the construction. Sometimes you see skid plates that are riveted together, which a rivet is a great construction method used in the right application. Certainly not at the bottom of a motorcycle where it's going to be sustaining a lot of impacts. So functionality, and then a second one is, these are gorgeous bikes, right? These are not cheap dirt bikes. These are the BMWs, the KTMs, the Ducatis. So we spend a lot of time on the design so that it's complementing a lot of the fairings and the lines of the bike. So not only the design element, but even the finishes, using anodized blacks and silvers, doing the grain finishes on the parts. And because too often before, a lot of the product had a very engineering look to it, so it was very crude and make simple crash bar. So we really like to pick up a lot of the design elements of the existing design of the bike. And then thirdly really was the installation process. We very much prided ourselves on how the products are installed, first originally designed and manufactured, so that in the end, when the end user is actually installing it, he finds it to be a very reasonable task to get done, as opposed to struggling or fighting or even modifying the existing product.
So I'm here with Nick Plum from Touratech, and Nick's going to tell us all about the brand new Paglia.
Yes, hello. Only last week we've just received the new Mondo, the Ziga Mondo panniers, which we're classing as our value for money panniers. It's now allowing us to be able to supply a set of panniers for whether it's a BMW, Triumph or some of the other adventure bikes out there for just over £800. But we're still using all of the great features that the majority of our other panniers have, like the Ziga Pro and the Ziga Pro 2.
So just explain the difference, apart from the price obviously, between the Ziga Pro 2 and the Mondo.
Well, obviously we've got three models now: Ziga Pro 2, the Ziga Pro and the Ziga Mondo. The Ziga Mondo still come in all the three sizes, just like the other ones, but they only come in one finish, which is the kind of raw alley look. But where we've tried to make the price a bit different is not adding some of the niceties like the plastic caps on the corners and the plastic bits down there. We have used a different machine to help us make, it's mainly the lid section of these. So when you look at the Ziga Pros and the Ziga Pro 2s, the lids are kind of pressed together and welded. Right. So we've tried to make these lids in one piece. So at Touratech Germany, they kind of spent quite a lot of money on new machinery to try and adapt and make our panniers even better than they already are.
So that was the offering from Touratech, and now I'm with the other class leader, which is Metal Mule, and I'm here with Paul from Metal Mule, who's going to talk to us about the Ute, which is your entry-level pannier, which has been around for a bit longer than the competition. Paul, just tell us about the pannier.
So it's exactly the same pannier construction as the Max pannier, our top-end offering. The only difference is that you don't have all the handles on the top and on the side, and you don't have the rubber feet. And then the seal inside, on this one over here is a silicone seal, on this one over here is a neoprene seal.
Right.
The attachment system is slightly less sophisticated. It involves a screw attach system in here. Just take the pannier off. Okay. It's very easy and convenient to do.
Still quick and simple, isn't it?
Still quick and simple. This is the metal to metal system. The Max system has polyurethane, so it's not metal to metal. And it still has the same base underneath, which is the secret of Metal Mule. Very, very strong and never distort. Yeah. The other thing that this pannier comes with as standard, which all our panniers do, are the tie-down loops, the interior locks, and the attachment system for putting the pannier accessories on. Right. Yeah.
Okay.
We were wondering how you could work out which pannier is attracting the public's eye. So, let's see how many people stop to look at them in a 5-minute period. Well, you draw your own conclusions, but with it being so new on the market, the Touratech is a little less known, and to be honest, their awesome new helmet has kind of stolen the limelight.
Right, well, that was a show. Obviously there was a huge amount in there that we hadn't looked at, but we wanted to show you just a slightly different side to the show. and I am really looking forward to see what these guys put on the MCN Outdoor Show in May. Well, it was a great show, and actually I think it was one of their best ones. And now, post-Dakar, it's time to catch up with Llewellyn Pavey whilst his dad is in Portugal.
Race I've ever done. We've got loads of sleep. It was really nice, easy navigation, no bike problems. We all just sort of moseyed along, and yeah, yeah, it was something. Yeah, it's a very different race to anything else I've ever done. Obviously, we had a lot of dramas along the way, mostly focused around the fact that bikes don't work well when they're full of salt. But apart from all those dramas, it was really fun actually. I had a really good time. There was lots of times where you were tired and a bit annoyed with the fact your bum hurt and so on and so forth, but I had a really enjoyable experience. We made exactly 6.5 days without riding together on the special stage. Before on day 6 I had a really unfortunate, well, first off I got lost in a really simple place to get lost. I wasn't the only person, there was about 30 other people with me at the time. I think half of them followed me. But it was a really, really easy mistake to make. Like Dad made the same mistake, and I think some of the early guys, some of the front guys made the same mistake. You just came over a rise and the main track kind of went left, and if you went literally 3 meters too far, the roadbook didn't make sense anymore. And if you looked at it 3 meters earlier, it made perfect sense. So it was one of those things. Just took there was no tracks or anything. It was all virgin territory and lots of canyons that all looked identical. And the instructions in the roadbook were really clear on what the canyon should look like, but I just couldn't find the right one. There was probably 40 of them to choose from, and there was people going everywhere, and I ended up with a group of riders that I knew were really experienced, and I trusted that they were going to kind of do the right thing and read their roadbook and look at their GPS, and they didn't. They just rode in circles until they got so lost they didn't know where they were anymore. But eventually we went back to where we came from, and which was the hardest thing with that bit where we got lost. Getting back to where you came from was kind of a really ambiguous thing. It was a bit like being on the moon. It all kind of looked the same, so you couldn't really tell where you came from. But we found the right way in the end. We lost about 20 minutes, but then there was a whole bunch of us together, and we started to spread out again towards the end of the stage, and then I was riding up this big sand valley, and there was a hole you couldn't see because the sun was really low and all looked flat. And I fell in it and hurt my ankle pretty bad, and fortunately I was only there probably 10 minutes on the floor before Dad came along and went, "Oh, there's a bike there hidden in that hole." And I was sat there going, "Oh my god, my ankle really hurts. Should probably get up now, it's quite hot." And then I was really lucky again, like a medic car saw me crash, and I was on the floor and didn't really move for a while, and they went, "Oh, we should probably go and help him." So they turned up at about the same time, and they fed me full of drugs and gave me water, and I kind of sat down in the shade of their car for 20 minutes, and then we rode off into the sand dunes, and yeah, it was hard work. And then the second week, the first day after the rest day riding to Bolivia, we started the special kind of apart. He started in front of me, and he rode normal pace for ages, and I think he didn't expect me to ride as slow as I did because he kind of thought my ankle would be alright when we started riding, and it was, but I still just took it kind of steady, and we were passing people, but he waited for me after a bit. He didn't like not knowing what was going on, so he waited, and we rode the rest of that day together, and it was a pretty dramatic day. There was a lot of rain and people falling in rivers and getting flushed away, and I don't know, being crazy, making silly mistakes, and then the next day we started on the salt. We started right next to each other in the morning because it was a mass start, and my bike stopped, and then from that point on, we pretty much rode the whole race together, all the rest of the way, because we just had so many problems with the salt and with our electrics on our bike, and like the mechanics in the night, like the first night, Evan and the driver John, they changed the whole wiring, basically all the wiring that was affected by the salt, but it started turning up in connectors and sensors and things, and just things started happening to bikes that don't normally happen. And yeah, it just put us in a difficult position all the time. There was always some new problem that was no one's fault. It was just, there was like another thing, and by that point in the race, KTM had sold all the parts that you could replace things with. So we were like going scrounging for switches off other teams and car teams, and I think we bought a switch off Mini for 50 quid, which is an expensive switch. But yeah, it was like that. So kind of after that day in Bolivia, we kind of it became less about riding safe and literally just getting to the end, and we kind of helped each other a lot. We did a lot of towing. Neither of us would be at the end without each other really, and without those two for sure. The finishing was actually a bit of a strange situation. It wasn't really a high point because I'd just gone through so much crap to get there, and then there was a load of bureaucracy on top of that we had to deal with about just this and that, and it was like one of those things. You were just like really angry at the time. I was just kind of full of just like, I just want to get to the end now, you know, and just keep pushing. And it was it wasn't like there wasn't that massive relief that you'd kind of expect. Had that a lot the day before because I felt like we'd finished. You know, the second last day, I was like, the last day doesn't matter. It's like 180 k's of dead easy riding. So it was kind of quite a high there. But other high points, the day we made it in after crossing the Andes again, when we had I had altitude sickness crossing the Andes, and then Dad's bike broke at about 5 p.m. with 350 k's to go, all off-road, and getting in that night, there was a long period there where it was kind of like, don't really know how we're going to get out of this because we're in a pretty dangerous situation. We're on top of a mountain in a thunderstorm. It's just quite scary at night, not really knowing where you are and knowing you've got a long way to go and you haven't really got any food and, you know, all those things. So that was a really big relief that night. It was kind of a big high point. Yeah, it was every day you had a big problem and you got in. The adrenaline rush was like, yeah, that was a big deal. We survived something pretty difficult there, I suppose. And I think all the times that like there was kind of the last 2 or 3 days in Argentina before the last day, where the riding was ridiculous how fun it was, you know, like that was a really big buzz. They were quite clever. They ended the race with really good riding. Like the last 4 days were just incredible scenery and really fun riding that I don't think you'd ever find that stuff if you just went there on a normal motorcycling holiday. That was really enjoyable for me. And I got altitude sickness. I think mostly it was caused by quite severe dehydration. I didn't realise I had at the time. Kind of go hand in hand, altitude and dehydration. And I was really emotional. Like I was super emotional riding down the tarmac road. I had tears rolling down my face. I didn't know how I was going to get out of it. I didn't understand how I was going to be able to ride. I was falling asleep, and yeah, it was a really strange situation. I was a mess. I was like a pregnant woman. I was so emotional, you know. It was just really a strange situation. It's not really me at all. It was kind of, it was just riding down the road like, oh man, I'm never going to get out of this stage. I'm never going to finish today. It's like, it didn't really know how to deal with that or anything. It was one of those things, like, I don't know, I suppose it happens to a lot of people when they've got dehydration. They just end up, that's what gets you into trouble, really. You don't really make good decisions at altitude or when you're dehydrated. So, it was a bit uncomfortable, really. Emotionally. Yeah, a little bit. You know, it was a nice moment for us to be at the end together. It was, you know, especially because it was us. We did it together. You know, that second week we really pulled each other through. There was definitely times where, you know, he was stressed out about situations, and one of you in that situation has to pull the other one through. And like when his bike broke, and you know we're in that thunderstorm, and you know, I definitely was the more calm one there, and kind of, he's not great when he's hungry. Which is fun, you know, he's like that Snickers advert. But yeah, so it was just a nice moment for both of us, really. We're quite glad we made it through. We didn't have any problems because, you know, it is always in the back of your mind that it is a dangerous race. It doesn't take a big mistake to have a big crash, really. So it was really nice for us to do that together. We do a lot of stuff together, and I don't know, really, that was just a nice feeling, I think, for both of us. So what?
I am sure you will all agree that was just the most amazing effort, and I can't wait to see what they do next year. That's all from us, and we'll see you next month.
I've got a plane above me, an old pair of slippers, both in terms of the...
Both in terms.
I like clapping.
Is that the only applause you ever get?
So it's been a really good show for me. I can't work like this. I'm a professional.
Really?
She says that she's drinking gin and tonic on I'll hide that out camera view. Should we try again? How's my hair look, by the way?
Fantastic, yeah.
Don't you dare put that in there.
One more time and then...
I did great. Great adverts, rubbish at adventures.
You get it wrong, it's yours. Right, we'll do it one more time and then...
I did great adverts, rubbish at adventures.
I didn't hear it click. It's not. It's a recording. It's not a photo. But we will do a photo after this.
We're talking.
Okay. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1.